Welcome to Laser Reviews. Today I'm talking about a dream scenario from 2023. This is going to be yet another one of my lazy recommendations where I'm just going to quickly talk about a movie that I like and that I want you to watch without spoiling it. And this time I'm going to talk even less about it than I did with my previous recommendation of Repo Man. With that, I mean, I'm probably not even going to talk about the plot at all. I'll give you some ideas about what the movie touches, what it does right. This movie, I risk spoiling it just by telling you about the plot, and that's why I don't want to do that. I want to give you as fresh an experience, as unspoiled an experience as you possibly can going into this movie, because that's how it should be experienced. And also, this will be my first review of a Nicolas Cage movie, and it excites me a little because I do like my Nicolas Cage. As if you are a long-time viewer of my channel, you might have realized I do have a thing for Nicolas Cage. Or you might not have, because it's a bit subtle anyway. But Nicolas Cage time. This is a good Cage movie, and it's not just a good Cage movie. All the performances in this movie are good, and some of the performances are great. So what is so good about this movie that I want to recommend it? It does many things, and it does it in a fresh and exciting way. It has a very interesting premise. It takes this very interesting premise, this very interesting idea that feels very unique to me. Maybe there are other movies that do play with dreams in a similar way, but this is the first movie I've seen that does it in this way. It takes this premise, this idea, this world, and does some very interesting things with it. It doesn't really go where you would think it would go. It develops in certain areas where it makes sense, and in certain areas where, oh, that's how you would play on this story. Where it really emphasizes parts of it that might not really be what other directors or writers would focus on. And I think that also is what makes it so interesting to me. And it does go places that you wouldn't expect. I kept being intrigued about the movie. I kept being immersed. I kept thinking, where will this movie go next? Because it shows from a very early beginning that this is an unpredictable movie. And unpredictable movies are not perfect. There are flaws with that concept. But I don't think there are many flaws with this movie. There are decisions where you may not agree. For example, I think the movie should have stopped maybe 20 minutes before it does. There's a perfect moment to stop it. But if you end the movie there, it ends with a lot of ambiguity. It ends very abruptly, and you don't know what's next. I do like movies that do that. Instead, this movie actually decides to have an ending, to have an epilogue. They don't call it the epilogue, but it is very clearly an epilogue. What they do with the epilogue is very, very interesting. So I also understand why they would want to include it. Why they don't end the movie where I would have ended the film. And I am perfectly happy with the ending they gave. It does something very different. And it does develop the universe even more. It does actually do it quite well. And it does harken back to a lot of the themes of the movie. So without this way of ending the movie, I can see why it would maybe be a lesser movie. It might be a bit more interesting viewing experience from my personal perspective. But I think by prolonging the movie, by adding these extra elements, they are making a better movie.
As if we'd end the movie like that. Yeah.
Let's do the Scooby-Doo ending.
Good call.
But what is it that this movie does so well? Well, it takes this very dreamy, this very fantastical, magical, realist concept. It grounds it in the character of Nicolas Cage. And that's what really works about it. Nicolas Cage has such an interesting character. Not even character arc, he's just an interesting character in the movie. He arguably doesn't even have much of an arc. He doesn't really change much during the movie, which that might be considered a small spoiler, but it more just reveals and plays with different aspects of the character he is revealed to be very early on in the movie. And he is playing this dual role of being very sympathetic. You are very sympathetic to what he's going through because what's happening to him is extremely unfair. And not only is it extremely unfair, it also questions what would you do in the same situation? How could anyone handle what is happening in this movie? So it is very grounded and realistic with how he's being treated. To some extent, it humanizes the situation very much. You really empathize with him and feel how he's wronged. At the same time, he's a very flawed and unsympathetic character. He is essentially a loser in this movie. And he is a loser with a grudge. He's a loser who never had the willpower, the ability the whatever, the charisma maybe, to become who he wants to be. He's very petty. He has this grand ambition. This is not spoiling a lot. He has this grand ambition of writing a book on some research he did all the way back at university, from what I gather. He is now in his late career, late 50s, early 60s, and he still hasn't written this book. He still has passions about writing this book, and it is groundbreaking research, but he never sat down and wrote it. A lot of the movie is about him wanting to have it published, but he hasn't even written it yet. He's trying to publish an idea, and the only reason for that is because someone else is about to publish this research that he feels was stolen from him. But at the same time, if it's groundbreaking research that he has shared with other people, only ideas, not the research itself, then of course it should be made public. But he's so petty that he doesn't want other people to have the fame, the honor, the prestige of an idea that he originally had, even though he has done nothing with it himself. And that speaks volumes of his character. He's very petty. He feels very entitled, but also is a loser who is very passive, who does nothing in his life. Essentially wants a very simple life, but also isn't satisfied with that. And he's very selfish. He's very selfish. He doesn't understand how his actions reflect on other people, how they harm other people. He's very stubborn. And yes, you understand why he's acting in this way, because he is being wronged in the movie. What's happening to his character is very tragic. It's miserable what's happening. It's absolutely abominable. But the way he's handling it is also not great. And I can't say much more about without spoiling it. I do think what's happening to him, it's a bit unrealistic. But it does make sense because one of the big themes of the movie, more broad, it's about human nature, essentially. And that's very broad. But it's about human nature in how we interact with social media, how the media and social media are transforming us as people, how fame or quick celebrity status affect us, how we adapt to these realities, how we are being cannibalized and abused by these media structures, by this ecosystem, echo chamber, whatever fame, whatever celebrity status you might gain, be abused and used by corporate entities, by the market, by all these people, all these sectors of society that want to take what you have and want to use you for their own ends without considering you in it. You are not a human, you're not a person, you are fame, you are not an individual, you're what you are famous for. And that is really what it plays with. And it is of course a huge critique essentially, or even not necessarily critique, but a huge comment on the society we live in right now and how we treat other people, how we treat celebrities, how celebrities are created, how everything is commodified. It does that very, very well because it is a big theme in the movie, but it's such a theme that really falls into the background because much of it does become about human nature, how people react to different things, how this person ends up in this situation and reacts to it, and how other people react to him. It's very short commentary, but that did make me laugh a lot. It does comment on grifting. That once cancel culture comes after you, who can you turn to remain popular, to earn money, to earn a lot of money potentially? Well, those are the grifters. I'm not going to say more because the movie does say it for me. I'm not going to say it myself, but it does have a very, very funny take on the grifters, on those people who just maybe started in the center or center left and then just slowly moved, earning more and more money and a bigger reputation with certain groups. It does have a nice commentary on that. It's only really one scene, but it does do it quite well. One of the things it does question a lot as well, or play with, is how much should you cling on to your individuality? How much should you be true to yourself? And try to achieve what you want to achieve, and how much should you accept what you're given? This is a movie where when life hands you lemon, will you still try to make vodka? Or will you actually make lemonade, even if the lemonade is sour and might rot your teeth away? Will you still be making lemonade? I'm not good with analogies. And therefore, yes, it is about this broader cancel culture is brought up many times, but it's not so much about cancel culture. It's about how people just behave in general, how mass culture, mass hysteria, mass popularity, and the individual conflict, when they're clashing, what that produces and what comes after. And with how the movie opens, what comes before it. it's such a great dynamic in the movie. It works so well. And we should not forget that this movie, of course, also has those supernatural, magical, realist, sci-fi aspects to it. And that is a big part of the movie as well. Of course it is. It is what drives it. I would say it falls a bit into the background compared to what is actually happening, what is in focus. As I said, the personal story, the journey, the human nature, the social critique of it, or commentary. But the other elements add to making the movie very visually interesting, because the movie has some great scenes. It really is very intriguing, has some very great visuals, very good ideas. And that's how they use that aspect more so that actually, of course it is a plot device, but it's more of a device to just give you good scenes. To almost give you an excuse to watch insanely nice stuff. I took more away from the personalized story of the plot, but I can also see why you just watch this and those scenes are so cool that's what's important about it. So it really in that way appeals to two sides, to two different audiences, or in my situation it does appeal to two, not audiences, but two different things I like. And that is also what really makes it good, and it allows Nicolas Cage to really shine. That said, I was on for this really strong ride, this very unique ride. I was fully immersed. I love this experience. This movie is really good. It's not amazing, it's not perfect, but it's a really good movie. And I can really recommend you to go on this ride yourself. Again, I haven't really spoiled, I hopefully haven't spoiled your experience with it. I really tried to keep it spoiler free as much as I could. And that's it for this recommendation. I hope you really enjoyed it. I will, of course, be going back to reviewing franchises as per usual. Maybe you have some ideas of other small recommendations I could do. This is a bigger, lazy recommendation. I do sometimes watch movies that I just really want to talk about, and this was one of them. And yeah, I don't want to just do franchises. I just want to do what I want to do, and I wanted to do a review of Dream Scenario. So that's Dream Scenario for you. I hope you will have a nice day. Bye.